Hello everyone. Welcome back to Bunny Musings, episode 6. This is Bunny, and I need to tell you about By the Horns by Ruby Dixon before I forget the details of it. So I read this book maybe a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. We're stretching the clock a little bit here. But yeah. Ultimately, this will contain spoilers, yes. Um, I will say the premise of this book is spicy. I will not be discussing the spice. I will be talking about something somewhat completely, utterly unrelated, but like referenced within the book, um, to where you may think, did we read the same book? Yes, we did. But I'm just talking about a very specific element within it, on within my very specific lens on how I focus on things, especially for this purpose and for this format. Um, but yeah, always make sure to read the content warnings for yourself if you are going to read this on your own. Yeah. So, reader discretion is advised, and also, yes, I will be talking about spoilers. I will be talking about the premise of this book, so if you have not read it and you intend to read it, maybe read it and come back. Um, flag this, well, not flag this video, save this video and then come back. But yeah, so let's get into it. So, the premise of the book alone is spice oriented, so I am not going to talk about that. But basically, um, it is a monster romance, meaning that the main male character is not human. He is actually a Taurian. I think that's how you say it. He is basically a bull man. So he is a bull. And yeah. So as you can imagine, there are things that come with the territory. Regardless, let's get into it. So there's the guild that they work for where they collect they go down. Oh my god. I'm like forgetting all of the like actual terminology that this book uses, and I like can't go back to look at it because um I borrowed it on Libby, and so I had to return the book, obviously, so I can't like reference it anymore as I'm speaking about it. Maybe I should have taken notes. Maybe I should have taken notes, but I am not a note taker when it comes to books. I did that in high school. I don't have to do that anymore. Um, but maybe next time I will. Anyways, so they collect artifacts from the depths of the world they live in, and these artifacts are imbued with like magical powers, and they're worth money, and they're sold to collectors. But the start of this book, there are people who have been stealing these artifacts and selling them on the black market, or their version of a black market, in order to make money. Because um, the book is focused on the people who actually go down and collect these artifacts, but they only get a small percentage of like what the artifact is sold for. Like they get a set rate for what they bring back to the guild, basically, which honestly is kind of an unfair model. Like, I can see why there would be thieves trying to get more bang for their buck, because what do you mean I went down into the depths in these scary places and I only get a flat rate. Like, come on, you know? So I don't entirely blame them. I'm like, whoa. And so, yeah, that is the premise. So this Torian is, his name is Raptor, and he's the MMC, and he is entrusted with um, kind of mingling with the newcomers who are training to be a part of the guild, and basically trying to find out who the thieves are. And so he's kind of like looking within his group, trying to figure out if one of them is the thief. The thief? The thief. The thief. Anyway, oh, my brain. Anyways, and so let's cut to the chase. Let's jump to the ending of the book. Okay, we're gonna skip all of the parts where it's like, okay, he's suspicious of the FMC, Gwenna, she's a human, but she was a maid. He has been incredibly suspicious of her, and he can, like, tell that she's not telling him the truth. And she's not. Obviously, she's not. But not the truth that he is thinking. He's thinking she's the thief, and when she's working with the thieves, and she's not telling me because she can't. Maybe they have something against her. Maybe they're blackmailing her. You know, these are the thoughts that are going through his head. And, you know, like, that's logical. You know, I could see how he got there. Because she's being suspicious. You know, she's definitely being suspicious. And yeah, it's not helping. But what it is that she's hiding from him is something that happens within the very first chapter or so that I'm not going to be discussing. But what I am going to be discussing, well, am I? No, that's not what I planned on talking about. But anyways, what she's hiding from him that I can actually talk about is that she is a necromancer and she can, like, sense the dead in this world. And so she kind of has this, like, somatic experience of, like, being pointed to things in this universe. And so yeah, it's kind of eerie. Well, not eerie to read, but it's just a little like, ooh, I wouldn't like that. But luckily, I do not have mental pictures, so I didn't have to sit through any of that. And I just got to read the story as is. But yeah, and so in this world, being a, like, quote unquote mancer is what they called it, um, in the story, is like outlawed. Like, think Salem witch trials levels of, like, being burned at the stake for, like, being a necromancer or for having magic in this world. Because in this world, they are um, only allowed to have magical objects, and those magical objects are sold to collectors. But if people have magic in them, then obviously that disrupts the system. And, you know, so that's why people having magical abilities is outlawed, even though in this book there are two people with magical abilities, which is Gwenna, the main female character, and then a side character who I forgot the name of, who gives potions regularly to Raptor. She's like a brew master, I guess, is what I'm calling her because I don't remember the name. Anyways, it's very much giving she's a witch kind of vibes. Um, but yeah. And so, what really got to me about this story and about this particular dynamic was like towards the end of the book, someone dies, right? Someone who was like a part of their five, which is like the group, the number they need in order to like take the test in order to become people of the guild. I'm like really skirting around the vocabulary here because I don't remember it. Anyways, he dies and she senses it because in that moment, you know, like they were close enough. But, anyways, yeah, the female main character and the male main character were together in this crucial moment. And they were having a moment. A moment. And, yeah, in the middle of said moment, she says the name of another man who has just died, who has just been murdered, like literally right outside. Um, and yeah, he obviously was like, "What the hell? We were having a heart to heart here, and you're saying what? You are saying another man's name? I don't understand." And so that was funny. Not that the other character succumbed to the fact that they were messing around with thieves and then got taken out. But what got to me was he took her away from the scene and he's like, Gwenna. He didn't say this exactly, but this is like the gist of how he was. He was like, baby, just let me help you. Just tell me the truth and we will figure it out. We will figure this out together. Like, he loved her so much, even through his suspicion, which I feel is not commonly emphasized in books. This concept of unconditional love is not emphasized, especially when like potential crime or wrongdoing is in place. I don't know, maybe I'm just not reading books with stakes like that, but he was like, I will help you. Whatever it takes, I will get this and help you out if you just be honest with me. Like, tell me why you're a thief. But it turned out she wasn't a thief. And so obviously she was like, I can't tell you because, like, I'll be ended. I'll be burned at the stake for telling you. And he was like, still thinking she was a thief, but no, ultimately she was a necromancer. And so he he was a bit surprised when he found out, I believe. But yeah, that was ultimately like he still went to bat for her. And that is something I respect deeply in an MMC. Um, you know, because even when her existence was technically outlawed and like she shouldn't exist in this said world because she has magical abilities. He still protected her. He still wanted justice for her and didn't want her to be framed for thieving because she wasn't thieving. She was just trying to get a job. She was just trying to work for the guild. That's all she wanted. She just didn't want to be a maid for the rest of her life. She wanted to be able to earn coin in a way that could actually support her instead of like barely having scraps of coin to send home to her mother. But I will say things happen. I'm gonna kind of gloss over the ending here. Um, I just think the ending was a bit too clean for my liking. Like, I can tell that it is likely setting up for the next book in the series because this is a part of a series. This is book 2. I did not read book 1 because I took my own advice and I read the content warnings and I was like, this is not something I can read, so I'm out, basically. But I still thought the universe was interesting enough to look at the second book, and since it was something I could borrow on Libby, I was like, well, let me look at the content warnings on this with the sample, and then we'll see where we're at, and we were fine. But yeah, I don't know, the ending was a bit too clean for me, or like the way the characters talked about all the thieves being rounded up and saying like this is all fine and dandy, just like there's a level of suspicion to that for me, because if you spend a majority of the book making these thieves so elusive and so secretive and like completely embedded into the society in a way that people don't expect, it's hard for me to believe as a reader that they caught everyone that easily. Like, there's no way it's like Scooby Doo and it's like, these darn kids, these darn meddling kids. There's no way it's like that. And so, in my head, I'm thinking this is like a Hydra for sure. Like, they cut off one head and like there's gonna be other popping up in its place. And so that is my guess for, I don't know, I guess the rest of this series. This book by the Horns did come out like just last year, and I haven't checked to see if any more of the books are going to be coming out this year. I guess we'll have to see. If I can get my hands on it, maybe I will. I don't know. I still have a lot of Ruby Dixon books to read. I know it seems like I only read Ruby Dixon. I promise you I don't. It's just what I've read recently that I can talk about. I've also been into LZ Silver, which I'm sure I will make a video about eventually. But yeah, ultimately, I rated By the Horns by Ruby Dixon a 3.5 stars just because, I don't know, the ending wasn't entirely believable to me on like how they sold it on that front. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. But if it ends up being like a device for the rest of the series, if I'm able to read the rest of the series, that's another thing. But yeah, that was just kind of my vibe, because like, take my ratings with a grain of salt, because they very much are influenced by my emotions and the feelings I'm left with at the end of the book. Um, and so, like, if I'm confused at the end of the book, ultimately my rating is going to be confused as well. Because I don't know how else do you rate a book like that. Um, it was also like my first book of its kind. I don't typically read what am I saying? I don't typically read monster romances, and on top of that, I don't typically read kind of more like mystery suspense books. Maybe that was my fault for exploring a little bit too far into the genre. But yeah, I don't typically enjoy books that stress me out. I kind of like to read for enjoyment a little bit more, and if the book is stressful, what am I doing? But I still wanted to read it because, after all, I pressed borrow on Libby and I felt like obligated to do my best and to return it on time. But yes, I did end up finishing all of it, and it was good. Um, but yeah, it was definitely very story heavy, which is great. You know, it's not something I expected in the monster romance genre for something to be so story forward, even though that's like not the status quo of the genre from what I understand. Anyways, I had a good time. Um, yeah. The At some points it did make me a bit anxious, but that is simply because the main character was anxious, you know. So don't forget, sometimes your moods are affected by what you consume and what you're paying attention to. So, yeah, note to self. I was like, why do I feel this way? Oh, maybe it's what I'm reading. Huh, hadn't thought about that, clearly. Um, but yeah, this was episode 6 of Bunny Musings. This was Bunny, and I just had to get that little spiel out about this book before I utterly forget anything and everything about what I read, because that's what it's like when you're a fast reader for me, I guess. You read fast and it goes fast. So if you're reading, or if you're not, if you're just stopped for a listen, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a good whenever, and I'll see you next time.